Welcome to the Light of Sirio podcast. My name is Dori Fari and I will speak with a realized spiritual master about his views on life and the topic of spirituality.
Om Namah Savan Namah Om Namah Savan Namah Om Namah Savan Namah Om Namah Savan Namah Om Namah Kirpal Namah Om Namah Kirpal Namah Om Namah Ajaibo Namah Om Namah Ajaibo Namah Om Namah Savan Namah Om Namah Savan Namah Om Namah Kirpal Namah Om Namah Kirpal Namah Om Namah Ajaibo Namah Om Namah Ajaibo Namah Om Namah Savan Namah.
So now we reached to the 6th episode of our podcast of season 4, and I brought for this episode an uncommon topic which is not really connecting to the previous ones, but I would like to say why I brought this topic for now, because soon there is going to be a program with Master Sirio in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and I just remember the previous program which you gave 2 years ago, maybe in Amsterdam, and when you gave a public lecture to which the title was "Learn to Die so that you may begin to live," and I began to just think about this topic, and I was also thinking about dying and experiencing things. And nowadays one can easily find also lots of accounts and descriptions of experiences, of near-to-death experiences, which somehow is very near to this topic. Therefore I thought to bring as topic for today near-to-death experience as a big category, because times ago you were telling me a number of things about very special experiences. So I know, dear Master, that you were researching this topic and you were following some experiences told by people who had this experience. So would you please say your view, summary about this topic?
So this is something that I believe has always happened. But in the past, there were not all these means of making things known. There were no radios, there were no televisions, there were no internet, also
And podcasts.
podcasts and also publications, and they were not as easy as they are nowadays. So it was much more difficult to make things known. But there have been accounts, even in the past, even in the Greek history. I think I read once, or I heard once somebody mentioning a near-death experience at the time of the Greek philosophers. Anyway, this topic has become very documented and very spread in these past century through some people who have done a very intensive and accurate research in this field. One of the first one has been Raymond Moody, who collected many of these stories, put them in a book. I think even more books, in which several people relate their near to death experiences. Moreover, in the past, people who had these kind of experiences, they were afraid of giving them out, of talking about, because they thought they could be judged and taken as crazy, as possessed by the devil, because that has always been the method here. And the church was so dominant, anybody who had an experience of a different kind from what the Bible promotes and talks about, that would be from the devil. So people like this would come into troubles. So
Yes, actually, I just wanted to ask that is it possible that also the approach of humanity in general, did it change towards near-to-death experiences during the course of time?
Well, nowadays the society is much more of an open mind, and therefore, yes, these things are more easily accepted. Also because there is a lot of literature about spirituality and spiritual experiences and spiritual awakening, spiritual enlightenments. So this topic, it has become, let's say, of common day knowledge and more accepted, more easily accepted, definitely. Although still there is very much a scientific society, which has now become kind of the new religion, who is very much critical and judgmental about anything which is not just physical or psychological or scientifically proven. Anything which is empiric, personal experience is looked at with hesitance. Skepticism and judgment. Not from the church now, but from the scientific society.
Interesting, they changed position. Before the science was supportive towards the revolutionary new things, the new revolutionary wave or vibe, then now it has changed. But do you mean this only about the Western world? Because I just thought, how was it like in the Indian society, where there is Hinduism, or like there are also I also thought of Tibet, because then there are also these several known books like the Book of the Dead, and so there are lots of descriptions, and maybe in different societies it was looked at in a different way.
Yes, I'm sure it was looked at in a different way. but I don't have knowledge about people relating or talking about this kind of experiences in Tibet or India. I'm sure there have been cases there, but I must say that I don't have any knowledge about it. What has become widespread nowadays, it is what comes again from the West, by the way, some American researchers and European researchers. And of course they don't talk only about people having these experiences born in the West. They are from all over the world. Mm-hmm. They are from all over, from any kind of culture and religion. Therefore, what these experiences point out is that according to the culture, the religion you are in, when you have these near-to-death experiences, they will be, the experience that people have, they're very much conditioned by the cultural background or religious background that they have. So let's say if a Hindu has a near-to-death experience, he won't see Christ. He will see Krishna, or he will see Shiva, or this kind of the deities. If a Mohammedan has this kind of experience, it will be some Mohammedan type of mystical experience that they will have. Buddhists the same, Christians the same, and so forth. Somebody with a agnostic mind attitude will have again a different kind of experience. So what I always say is that God respects what we are and the way we can relate to this reality, supreme reality, and it manifests to us in a way that we may understand and easily welcome it. So that's how it goes. So there have been several people having these kind of experiences. I have listened to many podcasts and interviews about this topic with people who have had this experience, and it's very interesting because really, according to the person, according to the way they are, they get a corresponding kind of experience.
And what about somebody who is an atheist, or as you also mentioned, science, like the new religion? So what's with a purely atheist person or somebody who has a purely scientific mind?
Well, that depends. A person with a purely scientific mind most probably won't have any of these visions of any character of past masters, founders of religions. They will have an experience, most likely they will have an experience of meeting with the divine light, formless light, and going into the universe and experiencing the expansion of the universe. It can be in so many ways. So according to the mental setup that we have, there will be a corresponding experience. So a scientist, an atheist will have an experience which they can understand and welcome, according to their mind.
But I have another question. I have many questions today. That what happens to those? Is it also is it more common to have near-to-death experience, or what's with those who go into the state of the clinical death, and then they just come out of it, and then they don't experience anything, because that also happens. So which is more common, to experience an NDA, or just go into the clinical death and then be brought out of it?
Well, as far as I know, as far as I come to know about my research, maybe some people are going to coma. They might go in a kind of sleep in which nothing really happens, or at least they don't remember anything of what has happened. when they come out of it. But people who go through a heart arrest or go through an accident or through surgery in which, because of what happens during the process, they just leave the body, means that their heart stops functioning, that's when you die. When you stop breathing and when your heart stops functioning. So then the doctors understand you as dead. So people who have had this kind of experience, in which the heart has stopped beating and the breathing has stopped functioning, so they are understood as dead. These kind of people, they all are near to that experience. Means what they experience most of the time is that they find themselves out of the body. They are on top of the ceiling, top the room, up the ceiling, and they watch everything which is happening with their body. Doctors, they are very much in a hurry trying to resuscitate them, doing some massage on their heart in order to bring them back to life. And sometimes these out-of-body experiences last just for some few minutes, sometimes half an hour, sometimes 2 hours. There are different kinds of experiences. So,
but does it modify the experience itself? How long does it last?
Well, there are people who have had this near-to-death experience for, let's say, 6-9 minutes, but to their perception, because they say, I was in a state out of time and space, and to me, those 9 minutes lasted like months or years. Or to my perception, it was a very long time. Although from this physical perception of time, it was just a few minutes. Sometimes just a minute, but for them it was such a long and deep experience, which to their perception lasted for a very long time. So it's not so important how much it lasts, although of course if it lasts long, then usually they experience so much more on the beyond, on the other side. They go through so many kind of experiences which so much information is loaded into their awareness. So anyway, that's how most of these experiences happen. People who are drawn and they don't, of course, they can breathe, and so they pass out. People who have a heart attack and they pass out. People who have a surgery in which things go wrong and they pass out, and they all have this kind of experience. Then what happens to most of the people? They see a tunnel. Not everybody sees a tunnel, but most do see a tunnel. They go through the tunnel and they find themselves into the pure resplendent light, which they begin seeing by crossing the tunnel. They see on the other side this bright light. So they find themselves in this bright light, and some of them are welcomed by members of their family who have passed away. Some of them are welcomed by some deity, some masters of the past, and then they all go through some peculiar kind of experience, which is and must be very meaningful to them. So they can vary, they can be very different, these experiences, they can be similar sometimes, but they are all different or slightly different.
But is there any element which is common to everybody, or it's there are some similarities and then it's all personal for that person?
Well, the most common things, as I said, is getting out of the body, looking at everything from up there, what's happening with your body. Then they see normally a spot of light, they concentrate on it, automatically they feel attracted to it. This becomes very, very, very dominating the vision, and then the tunnel appears and they go through the tunnel, they find themselves in the light, and they meet these family people or deities or angels or past masters, and then at some point they have a life review. Most of them, not everybody again, very rarely somebody doesn't have it, but most of the people have a life review of what has just happened into their life, because that's the most important aspect of this experience. Either if we go through a near-death experience, or when we eventually die and we pass out, to have this life review of what we have done in the life that just happened is very important, because then these impressions that we get from this life review experience, they will stick very much into our awareness, into our impressions, into our inner memory, subtle memory, which will allow us to grow and improve, as evolve as souls, as individuals. Because when we will return again on this earth, having another body and another life experience, then we will remember, maybe not remember, but we will have these impressions very much imprinted into our psyche. Mm-hmm. And they will guide us, and they will, let's say, help us avoid repeating those mistakes.
So is it like, let's say, this life is the school, and the conclusion, what we get, the gist out of it, is the lesson that we learned in this life?
Yes. As far as our growth is concerned, yes. The impressions that we get from this life, and the impressions that we get when we have this life review, they are very much important. They are very much the juice of what we were meant to learn from this life experience that just happened. So I've been listening to many of these people relating their experiences, but two of them stand out as very, very important to my understanding. One is from an Indian lady who used to live in Hong Kong, and this is very important from the body point of view, because at some point, this is Anita Murjani, at some point she contracted cancer, lymph cancer, and gradually she developed these lymph nodes which became bigger and bigger, reaching the size of a lemon, and she had many spread on all her chest, throat. Mm-hmm. She had become very skinny, just skin and bones, and just these bumps all over her body, especially up in the chest and neck. So at some point in this process, when it became very bad, she went into a coma. And in this coma, she went out of the body, and she could see all what the doctors were doing with her body. She could also see what, let's say, for instance, her husband was talking with a physician in another room, which was not the room in which her body was. She could see her brother. They got the news that she had gone into coma and she would soon die, according to the medical statements. So she could see her brother buying the ticket, picking up the plane, going on the plane, and coming to Hong Kong to see her, and many things like this. These are very important because afterwards, when she came back and related these facts, they were exactly as she saw them. And this is what shocked so much the people around her and the doctors. Moreover, she went through this experience in which I think she went through a tunnel, and then she saw her father, who had just died some few years before. And so he guided her into this experience that she had. Now I don't remember all the details of this experience. She was out of the body for quite some time, for many hours. And at some point, what happens to most of these people who have this experience is that they
excuse me, but was she in a coma, or was the difference in between coma and the near-to-death experience?
No, she was in a coma. She was not declared dead because she was still breathing. and her heart was still functioning.
But in this coma, she went out of her body and had these experiences.
Yes. She found herself right away out of the body. She could see all what was happening to her body. And anyway, then what happens to most of these people is that at some point they are told, anyway, it's not yet our time. You still have things to do on the earth plane, so you will have to go back. Most of them do not want to come back, but they are told that they have to. Some of them want to come back because they understand, maybe they have young children, they have a family situation in which they are very needed, so they understand it's very important that they come back, so they choose to come back. To some of them it is told, you can choose whether to go back or to stay. And in this case, because of family things, because of situations which they feel they have to take care of, they choose to come back. Or they are told right away that you have to come back, and right away they feel this pull towards the earth dimension, physical plane, and zoom, right away they find themselves back in the body.
But is this out-of-body experience, or need the experience like crossing the planes?
It depends. It depends on who you are and what is your state of evolution. That's what determines where you go. So you can go to several inner planes when you leave the body, according to your level of evolution.
But is it possible that maybe somebody stays at a lower level, like astral level or something?
Yes, of course. Because most of the people stay just on an astral level. But some people then if the experience becomes longer, it lasts more, then they go through very higher type of experiences. Anyway, going back to Niti Murjani, which is what I want to point out now, is as I said, she had this cancer, very terrible cancer, that took her to this coma, and then she had this experience, and at some point she was told by her father that she had to come back, and she thought, well, I go back into that body which is in such a bad condition, well, why should I go back? She didn't want to go back. But her father said, don't worry, if you go back, your body will heal fully, very soon.
Interesting.
So she came back, eventually, she found herself in the body, and there was her mother, I think, her brother, her husband for sure, and she began telling, they were very happy of course that she came back, but she began telling, I see father, I see my father, and he told me that I will recover, don't worry, I will recover. That's the only thing that she could say in the very beginning. So the daughter was surprised, but they told the family, don't delete yourself, because she will not survive, she's going to die anyway, even if she came back from this coma. But she said, don't believe them, because you will see, I will recover. And very soon, in a week time, her cancer shrank, I think 60%. And the doctors were very surprised, were really amazed. Moreover, they found very strange that she could relate all these things, what was happening to her body, the doctors that were working with her, what they were doing, and what her husband was talking in another room with the head doctor of an important doctor over there. So they were all surprised because she knew all these things. And eventually, I think in 2-3 weeks' time, she was completely healed.
Unbelievable.
She could leave the hospital and go back to her life. And now she's a bright woman. She gives lectures and she's interviewed very, very often all over the world.
Yes, she also wrote books, I think.
She wrote this book, yes, Dying to Be Me. Means, she says that before I was not myself at all. I always lived for others. My life was just meant for pleasing other people, my family members, my parents first, then my husband, then isn't it? So that's it.
And did her life change in some ways, or?
No, she's a kind of an enlightened person. Really. She's a very bright person. If you listen to her interviews, to her lectures and podcasts, she has podcasts.
Yes.
She's a very bright and beautiful woman, really. And there is another case of, no, it doesn't come to my mind.
The name?
Yes.
Ibn Alexander?
Ibn Alexander, yes. That is very important also from the psychological or mind, psyche, mind, brain point of view. This of Anita Moorjani is very important because of the body recovering from such a terrible cancer in very short time.
Yes, it's amazing that it was possible. Whenever I think of it, I think that everything is possible.
Yes,
maybe we are the limit.
If it is meant to be, if it is.
But maybe also we are the limit because we believe that it's not possible. Maybe we just have to believe in it.
Yes, well, it's a common case anyway that most of these people who die because of some terrible disease they have, once they come back, yes, they go through a healing process. I mean, it takes time before they get out of it, but most of them do get out of this sickness, this health issue which caused their near-to-death experience. That of Anita Moorjani is really extraordinary because she really had this body which was wrecked, it was really destroyed, and she,
yes,
even from that bad condition, she could fully recover and in such a quick way. And with Ibn Alexander, it was about his brain. He had meningitis, one of those terrible ones which struck the frontal part of the brain, in which our memory of the life we just had is registered. So in that case, you lose completely memory of who you are, what you have done in your life, and everything about yourself. So he had this terrible meningitis, and again he went into a coma which lasted for a week. So he was out of the body for a week.
But also in his case, was it like this, that he was not declared as dead, but he was in coma?
He was kept alive to machines, you know. So he was stuck with this machine, connected with this machine, and this machine kept him alive. And actually, at the end of this week, when the doctor decided it's enough, because he will never come back again, so let's disconnect him from the machine and let him die. So when they took this decision and they were going to implement it, that's when he woke up.
Just like this.
Yeah. So anyway, he had this incredible experience, and he really went very high in his near-to-death experience. What he says is that he, after crossing several levels, he reached what he calls the core. The core for him, it is the supreme reality. It is what we call God. So in this experience, he had several visions and several sound experiences. And so it's very interesting that every day he wrote a book, which I don't remember the title now. And in this book, he relates day by day what happened to him.
Wasn't it the proof of heaven?
Proof of heaven, that's right. In this book, he relates day by day what happened to him when he was on the other side. And also what was happening to him on the physical plane.
Oh, so having a meningitis and being kept alive through machines, he was aware of what was happening around.
Yeah, well, also people confirmed. His family members, his wife, his children confirmed that what he was he's telling, it was truly happening. So anyway, he went through this very incredible experience with a brain which was destroyed, in which there should be no memory whatsoever left, And according to science, when you have this kind of meningitis, there is no way that you recover, because even if you don't die, then you will be like a vegetable with no memory whatsoever.
Yes, I don't know if it's called in English maybe cortex of the brain, or how it's called.
The frontal cortex of the brain.
Yes, where you have the memories
of this life,
of this life,
specific of this life. So it was flooded with this what do you call it? Pus, yes, this kind of stuff. And so his brain was totally destroyed. So doctors said again, if he comes back, he will be like a vegetable anyway. He won't remember anything, he won't be able to be paralyzed, he won't be able to perform anything. So anyway, as I said, in this book it relates all what happened to him in this incredible inner journey that he had. And at some point, when they decided, doctors decided to switch off the machine and disconnect from his body and let him die, his son was very desperate, and he went to his body and he shooting his air, "Dad, come back, Dad, come back." And he from the other side, because in this journey he would sometimes come back very close to his body and then leave again and go inside. So there he heard his son calling for him, and at the point he couldn't resist, so he came back. And so when they were going to disconnect, he opened his eyes and they saw him to be back again. And in the beginning he couldn't remember, he was very confused, he couldn't remember anything of himself, but he could remember very clearly all this inner journey that he had.
So do you think that it was connected, like, not to the bodily memory, which is not, I mean, like, because we say, like the center of the nerve system, the brain. So then his memories were not through the brain, because it was not possible then.
Well, that's his teaching, That's what he represents with this experience. That consciousness is not a product of the brain, but consciousness is independent from the brain functioning. And this is experience is what really practically demonstrates, shows that with a completely useless brain, he could not remember all this inner experience which he had in this 7 days time in his coma. So what he says is that, being a neurosurgeon himself, he says, I always believed that consciousness was a product of the brain, but I can tell with absolute certainty, because of my experience, that consciousness is not a product of the brain, but is an independent factor which always exists and always will exist, whether we are in a body or we are not in a physical body. So later on, by and by, of course, he was dismissed from the hospital, he went back home, and gradually all his memories of this life came back. He remembered who he was, all his knowledge as a neurosurgeon came back, and after some time his son told him, why don't you write a book about all this your experience? So that's why I decided to write this book, which is Proof of Heaven. So these two experiences are the most outstanding, because one shows that even with a destroyed body, once you have this experience and you are told that you will be okay, that you will recover, you come back and you recover very quick, like Anita Morjani. And in the case of even Alexander, with a destroyed brain because of meningitis, one can come back and fully recover.
Yes, actually it's amazing, really. I also knew some cases which, of course, it's not connected to near-death experience or such things, but how everything or many things is possible which the doctors don't know, or science doesn't know, or doesn't recognize. Because, well, I just mentioned this from my personal thing, that my son had a very severe brain hemorrhage when he was small. and he was sad. It was declared that he will never walk, or he would never walk, and he would never speak. And I was sad that probably he will be deaf and maybe also blind. And then that's how I got him into my hands. But somehow my trust was higher than these words, and I said, okay, we shall see, because whatever will be, I can't change it. And then, well, now people who listen to the podcast can't see how he is, but he's fantastic. I could say he's 15 years old, and he runs, jumps, rides a bike. He does everything like 15 years old boys. He speaks 4 languages.
He swims.
He swims, and he's a swimming champion. Okay, Paralympic champion, small champion. But because he has his right side is a bit weaker, but I mean, that he does everything really, like he's like somebody who doesn't know that he has this weaker side, then most of the people, they don't even notice. There are periods when you just can't see it on him, and he's just so brilliant, and he plays music, he writes songs, and so we have good hopes for the forthcoming life. And also I heard being related to doctors and going to hospital, then one of the professors told me that, look, because I showed, of course, the results of the magnetic resonance, the MRI, to this professor also to ask her opinion. And she said, look, this was said to you, but I don't say anything anymore, because I was also saying before, but I have seen a boy who didn't have half brain, because we had to remove half of his brain for some reason, and just to save his life, because we are obliged to do this. And we also thought this is almost cruel to do, but we were obliged to do. And this boy is doing everything and goes to school. And I don't say that he's a genius, but he's performing everything, which is, medically speaking, it was impossible. So she told me that, well, all these children and everybody who has a problem has a potential, and then the potential, we can help the potential to come out. That's what we can do, and nothing else, that we are limited. And all these stories which related, these 2 stories, it's very much correlates with this, but this really amazing story is very impressive. That I think the conclusion, at least my conclusion of this episode, is that really everything is possible. And we were talking before about free will and destiny, and I think whatever has to happen, it will happen, and no matter how we want to stay, how we want to go against that, or how we want something else, that if it's in the will, it's in the hukam, let's say, that in the divine will, that even the impossible will happen, because it's possible.
That's definitely so. Anyway, another aspect which I would like to point out about these near-to-death experiences, what happens to these people is that when they come back after this experience, they are all very changed. The most outstanding thing is that they have no fear whatsoever of death anymore, because they have seen that death does not exist. They experience it, they know, and they know where they will go once they will live again the body. And and then they all become develop very peculiar capacities. They are given gifts by which they can do very special things. Normally develop kind of therapies by which they can help people, and so they are all changed, just as it happens with people who have a spiritual awakening. Anybody who in some measure and in some way, anyway, has a taste, has an experience of what lies beyond this purely physical plane and physical body, they are all changed and transformed. Their life is not the same anymore, and they become all much better people.
And do these people get a task to perform, or they just have to come back and live their life in a better way?
Most of them they get tasks to perform. Most of them have a website in which they advertise and they do. They propose what they can do to people to help people. Most of them come back with very peculiar, special capacity.
So they become like the ambassadors of truth.
They become,
or light, love.
Let's say, instruments of truth.
Now, I heard once a near-to-death experience, which just came into my mind to mention that so much it seems to be important to when one is back into this physical plane, into the body, then has to change. And maybe it's a process. Maybe to some people, maybe who already had good principles in life, maybe it's easier for them. And there might be some people to whom it's more difficult, because I don't remember exactly how it was, but I remember of a man who didn't have very good principles in life and had a near-to-death experience and was sent back with the task to change the life, to help those around him. But he was like a terrible, unbearable person, tormenting everybody around him. And then he came back, and for a while he was changed, and he was a bad person. But then he began to behave terrible again. And he again had a near-to-death experience and was said like, what are you doing? This was not what was told to you. And then again he was sent back to perform a better life.
Yes, and then he succeeded to be a better person. I also heard about, listened to this story. So yes, he needed two of them in order to fully improve himself. Because as again it happens with people who follow spiritual pattern, who have a spiritual awakening. When they have this spiritual awakening, they are very motivated, they are very enthusiastic and very ready to really perform better and do better. But then when this experience gradually withdraws, or you lose track and memory of it, gradually the old habits, the old self, what you were, comes back, and then you're not able to be that good anymore. And so then what you have to do, if you have a master, if you are lucky enough to have a master and you can spend time with your master and have meditation retreats with, you can get this back, and that's the spiritual work that spiritual oriented people do. They have to revive again and again these experiences so that they can keep their motivation alive, their attitude alive on the right track. And people who have near-death experience, but they don't do a spiritual practice, most of them they tend to go back to what they were before. But anyway, in most of the cases, people who have a near-death experience, then they go on a spiritual path, they practice meditation, and they keep progressing and improving. Their life is changed. Very rarely they go back to an ordinary life.
And what would be the case of a satsangi who is initiated by a master? Like, I never heard a near-to-death experience of any satsangi, but in that case I suppose it would be the master who wait for them and guide them through.
Well, it's the same as what happens with satsangis who have a spiritual experience. There are many satsangis who have spiritual experiences. What does happen to them? They withdraw from the physical body and they see the master in their meditation, in their state of transcendence. So if they have a near-to-death experience, what will be? It will be just the same, because it's just the same. When you withdraw from the body in meditation, it is like a near-death experience.
So we could also.
So that's why the title of this program in Amsterdam was "Learn to Die so that you may begin to live," because this is what happens when we go into samadhi, into an out-of-body experience, which can come as a near-death phenomenon, or a deep meditation state. So it is the same.
So in substance, that is a spiritual awakening, a profound spiritual awakening.
Well, Rumi says that is marriage with the eternal.
Well, I just wanted to quote another quote since you mentioned Rumi. I just had it in front of me because we have the newly issued Sirius magazine. Yeah, so just we have this newly issued Sirius magazine, and on the cover, on the inside of the front cover was also written something similar. This place is a dream. Only a sleeper considers it real. Then that comes like dawn, and you wake up laughing at what you thought was your grief.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you very much, dear Master, to explain all these pretty elevated things to us. It was very involving. And for those who listen to the podcast, and since I mentioned this Sirius magazine, I would like to say that you can find the next volume coming out on the 1st of July, and you can just find it on the SirioSatsang.com/Sirius magazine. But if you just go on the website SirioSatsang.com, you can just find it there easily. And since we also mentioned the program of Amsterdam, then if anybody is interested in meeting Master Sirio and learn more about meditation practice and make an own personal experience, and you can do it in Amsterdam in between the 18th and 22nd of July. And also, if you want to try meditation, how Master Sirio presents this spiritual path, then you can also find the Daily Guidance Meditation podcast on Spotify and all podcast directories, and you can listen new episode daily. And what else? Then, if you can't come to Amsterdam, then you're most welcome to come in August to the St. Bani Ashram in Italy, where there is going to be 1 week intense spiritual retreat, meditation retreat, from the 15th to the 21st of August. So if you're interested in any of these programs, or if you have any questions or any comments or whatever to tell me, then ask from Master Sirio, then you're most welcome to send your questions or inquiries to the siriopodcast@gmail.com. And then thank you again, dear Master, and
you're welcome.
May God bless all. And now we can listen to the beautiful mantra performed by Master Sirio.
Om Namah Savan Namo. Om Namah Savan Namo. Om Namah Savan Namo. Om Namah Savan Namo. Om Namah Kirpal Namo. Om Namah Kirpal Namo. Om Namah Ajaibo Namo. Om Namah Ajaibo Namo. Om Namah Savan Namo. Om Namah Savan Namo. Om Namah Kirpal Namo. Om Namah Kirpal Namo. Om Namah Ajaibo Namo. Om Namah Ajaibo, Ajaibo Nama Om. Om Namah Savan, Savan Nama Om. Om Namah Savan, Savan Nama Om. Om Namah Kirpal, Kirpal Nama Om. Om Namah Kirpal, Kirpal Nama Om. Om Namah Ajaibo, Ajaibo Nama Om. Om Namah Ajaibo, Ajaibo Nama Om. Om Namah Savan, Savan Nama Om. Om Namah Savan, Savan Nama Om. Om Namah Kirpal, Kirpal Nama Om. Om Namah Kirpal, Kirpal Nama Om. Om Namah Ajaibo, Ajaibo Nama Om. Om Namah Ajaibo, Ajaibo Nama Om. Om Namah Ajaibo, Ajaibo Nama Om, Ajaibo Nama Om.